the Safer Community Grant dollars to fund this if grant permitted.
All right, we need a second on the amended motion then.
Second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
I do want to mention one thing, John did get a nice, email from, one of the camps here. Beaver Camp. Yeah, from the Beaver Camp. You made some contacts out there and they really appreciated it and it's work. Thank you. Okay, East Shore Area Emergency Services District Report.
The East Troy Area Emergency Services District met on May 17th. We had election of new officers. At this time, Jason Smalley from the village is the secretary treasurer. Chad Kraft from Spring Prairie is the vice president, and I will serve as president of the district. Our new engine had hoses installed. We are waiting for extrication, small tools, and some fittings. We seem to be caught in supply chain issues. Our third ambulance is waiting for the state titling before we can put it into actual service. We used ambulance number 2 to cover Knotfest. I believe that was 2 weekends ago at Alpine Valley. We are providing ambulance services along with Vernon in order to generate some revenue. And we will meet tomorrow night.
Congratulations on the leadership position there. All right, park committee report.
Mr. Holly and his students were here last Monday morning. Put the mulch out, did a walkthrough, talked with Todd, communicated with Todd a little bit about, there's one bench that it has a piece missing that he's gonna look to repair. And then we're looking into ideas for the, what kind of funds are they called? Impact fees, between, and, in one of our parks here. What options we have, Todd already started looking at some, equipment for the smaller kids here, and $9,100 was more than I expected. So we'll look at our different options of that next month.
Okay, very good. Who's Lake Memorial Park Committee?
Yeah, we have our centennial celebration once again. Feel like a broken record, but it's important. That's August 6th. It's actually the 5th and 6th. The 5th, in the afternoon, evening, they're gonna have live music down by the beach area. And on the 6th, we are trying to throw the bigger part of our festivities, food trucks and National Guard's coming with a bunch of things for kids. They have a rock wall. They have all sorts of stuff, which is fantastic. Sergeant Patrick, he asked what I wanted. I said everything. So we're really trying to make it family friendly. And we also the VFW has paid for us to have another pavilion up there, open air pavilion. Looks like the building itself is up. I think we're waiting on concrete. I think contractors are busy, so but it's really coming along. Really looks nice. It'll be really great for the park. So I think that's all.
All right, thank you. Lake Beulah Management District report, Greg.
The management district met on June 7th at 5:30. At that time, the harvesting of the product plants had yet to get started. The DNR was finalizing the 5-year permit. I'm not sure what the status of that is today. We're also installing the lake bed monitors that will watch over the conditions of the water during the summer. These are located using GPS coordinates, so we get a consistent reading from year to year on each location of the lake. County Zoning Agency, is set to vote on a conditional use for the hotel at 1341 Beach Road on this Thursday, June 16th at 4:30. It's part of the old agenda on the zoning agency's meeting. This is a decision vote, and so there's no public input allowed for this, although the management district has petitioned the county to add conditions onto any approval that might occur at that meeting. Just well issues and basically stormwater runoff and water pollution control from the off-street parking and any stormwater runoff that we might have. And I believe the town of East Troy has also petitioned the county for some conditional uses, or conditions to be added to the conditional use approval. Do you want me to go through what the town has submitted, Joe?
Yeah, that would be great.
I don't think we're aware.
I'm not sure.
The conditions as submitted at the county?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
One was to perform and be subject to a complete traffic impact analysis. Two, to perform and be subject to an environmental impact statement or assessment. To perform and be subject to the limitations recommended by a complete technical analysis of the well by a licensed hydrogeologist. Provide a well guarantee for all residential wells within 1,000 feet of the existing well on the property. Provide a road bond for East Shore Drive and Beach Road during construction and for a period of 10 years following that. An extension thereafter can be reviewed and negotiated. We're requesting a road bond amount of $1 million to cover any possible costs. And to incorporate a petroleum capture system into the stormwater drainage outfall to minimize gasoline and oil products being discharged into the lake.
Those are the same ones that were added a year and a half ago. I'm not sure how the county looks at those because they have a list of like 24 of them. So it sounds like they have a list, town has a list, the man district had a list, and I believe they had also people that wrote in, I don't know how they take those into account. In other words, private individuals, if they wrote a letter of support or recommending out, I don't know how the county takes those into account, I really don't.
I'm not sure what the process is.
So, okay.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if we could try to maybe have a discussion on something like that just beforehand, and I understand this was before I was on the board, just so we're kind of all informed, because I know we have people voting in and out, just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, this was really unusual, because what the judge did, she sent it back to the county, and the county started over with their public hearing. The county could have just as easily remanded it back to the town and told us to start over, but they didn't. So, public input was done.
No, I was at a lot of these meetings, and I understand like the concerns, I was on the DPW guys, but just an overview if that's something that like we're gonna go and put forward, it'd just be nice to have a discussion about it beforehand as well, so it's not.
Yeah, I think like if it was resubmitted, that. we would be aware.
Yeah, I understand, it was just nice to know.
And I think what part of the question may be is, were these town recommendations the same reasons given as reasons for denial?
There was no decision made.
No, he's talking about at the town.
No, going back
Planning
to
commission
the original application, when the town wrote their,
Yes.
That was submitted.
Yes,
And these conditions were part of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all they asked for is just put some limits on it, numbers, like the road bond, it just said provide a road bond. They said throw a number at it.
So that was recently requested from the county?
The county said the conditions that, we have your conditions from before, I said, well, I'm gonna resubmit them anyway to make sure they're in the record. And I think that's exactly what I said at the hearings, I'm just gonna make sure they're on the record. So, those are the same list as before.
But when you said they asked for clarification, that was recent?
That was just them saying, actually to the world, I believe the way they stated it, that they will be taking public input at the county and specificity, that's a hard word, is important, you know, and I don't know if they had any, I mean, that was just a direction, general direction saying they were starting over at the county.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they didn't, I mean, if they sent it back to us, they would have probably extended it by a year.
That meeting was held on May 19th.
Yeah. Correct. So this meeting Thursday, there's no public input, they're gonna make a decision. They may make a decision. They could also table it again or ask for more information.
Yeah, at the May 19th meeting, they tabled a decision and, zoning commissioners wanted to either visit the site or the county was going to schedule a drone flyover, from the air and that road level to examine the site for the.
And, since that meeting, I've had no contact with them as far as I'm asked any specific questions.
As far as I know, there's been no contact.
All right, that it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, recycling committee report, John?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank, Clerk Treasurer Kim Buchanan for diligence in putting together a lot of the information that, was needed for the application for the recycling grant award. And the 2022 recycling grant award amount is $14,866.78. And that's all I have.
Okay. Is that, I know it was reduced 3 years ago, and then the promise was always to get back to the original level. Was it like 4 years ago, was it more like 19,000, or am I imagining things? That was that high?
What we were going to do is put together the figures from the past and probably present those at maybe the next meeting. You know, like a total we received in recycling grants and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
And yeah, we talked about that this afternoon and, you know, probably for the next meeting we'll have those figures.
Anything in the library?
Yes, library board minutes, brief of the minutes from May 10th. And number one, progress is being made on the potential merger with the Arrowhead Library System. This is the Rock County area. Should it go through, this will be the first voluntary merger in the state. And the DPI is looking to it as a model for future mergers. Number two, the library board discussed the need for a new part-time library employee and discussed a job description for the future posting. And, library board meets tomorrow night and, 4 o'clock, and anybody wants to attend, certainly if you will.
What's this merger all
Okay, the long-term plan, this is another note, the long-term plan in Wisconsin is to combine many small systems into several large area systems. A voluntary merger helps Lakeshore, which is the area the East Roy Library is in, have more control on who is in the system. So in other words, if they, you know, do the voluntary merger, then this would offer more control, basically, for East Royal Library.
Yeah.
Would that
As to
be
who
valid?
is in
It
this,
adds Rock County to
yes,
the Lakeshore Library System, which is Walworth and
and,
the C.
yes,
Kenosha's by itself, yeah?
yes, Kenosha would be.
It makes sense that Kenosha would get.
Under this, and this is, you know, in planning stages, it's, you know,
But when we go to, assuming we go to a Troy library, it's my understanding we would no longer be part of the Lakeshore Library.
No.
We still are.
We still are.
Mhm.
The only thing the attorney put in the agreement is if that the boards wanted to get out, at least there was something in the contract that allowed that to happen. But it was never gonna happen, because why would you do that? The support they get from the libraries, the library system is immense.
Isn't it better for like inter exchange between libraries, like they've got this media there, they've got it here, they've got this book there. So that instead of just being in the Lakeshore system, we'll all get it from the Rock County system as well.
Right.
Is that the gist of it?
Mhm.
And I believe that started maybe a year ago, and they're getting at least.
Yeah, it was, under discussion during that time, getting to that time.
But that should have no effect on our agreement. Yeah, because it just mentions that system. Matter of fact, the new system, if they do merge, would probably still say Lakeshore, that because it's 2 counties versus 1, but
Yeah,
they could call it Lakeshore Rock or something.
yeah, Lakeshore, lot Lakeshore.
Okay, anything else on that?
No, and those, minutes were presented on behalf of Christina, the president of the library board, she was unable to attend.
Thank her for the report. Okay, communications committee report, Michelle.
So I will start with a few updates, but then, some of the committee members, Danny and Lee are here, to help provide some of the update as well. As you know, last month we had signed the contract with Town Web and the payment was complete. We have had an onboarding meeting with Town Web. It's my understanding from talking to Jen that right now, Town Web is kind of transferring everything to the new website format. And so any change, and they're hoping to have the draft back to us on July 1st, like a mock-up. And so until then, between now and then, basically any updates to the website, our staff is actually sending to Town Web. It's not doing anything direct while they're making this update and change.
So if you're seeing a lag in, agendas or something like that, it's because as they're migrating from the current website to the new website, if we go in there and we update something, there could be a snafu on where it's located. So we're notifying them of the change and they're getting it migrated the way it needs to be and stuff.
But I think they're generally pretty responsive.
Oh, yeah, they're very,
So,
they're very good.
so that's exciting, we'll see the mock-up, so we're looking also at any missing content that will need to be uploaded. Looking potentially at new pictures as well from the area, that we can include because they can rotate the pictures, things like that. So, progress definitely being made there. And one of the things, that the committee has talked about that we would like to add, and we can potentially add with the new system, is today, all of the town board meetings are audio recorded. And so the committee is looking to be able to post those audio recordings, while we work on the video equipment. And that would likely require a YouTube page, so we would post a link on our town website, and it would go to the audio recording.
You said what, this audio recording?
Right.
And in our onboarding meeting, that's the only way it can happen. There was either do it with Dropbox or YouTube. So,
That's because the files are too big, they would weight down the town website too much,
For sure.
so
Right.
they need it offsite.
So I guess one question from the committee is there any kind of approval or, needed Jen is all on board, she's doing a great job, she's got a lot of ideas, she now feels like she has some capacity to work on the communication stuff. She has some familiarity with YouTube, so wondering if we need any kind of approval from the board on YouTube, setting up a YouTube page. And she also feels like she's ready to set up, and that would be outward facing only, no comments. And she's also ready to set up a town Facebook page or in the very near future. So while we're talking about these options, we are asking, you know, what steps will be needed to move forward with both
Well,
of
I
those
think
things.
the budget's been established, so you know what you got.
Yeah, there is no cost for either of those.
Okay.
So it would be linking to the town website.
Yeah, I mean, it'd just be adding a link on the town website, which takes you to town business, which is
Yep.
all legit, right? So,
So
I would
we
think-
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I don't think you need town board approval for that, but I think it was a good idea
I
for you
think,
to ask.
I think one of her questions was, in order to reduce the lag time, was that she is wanting to know if she can be the end user or make the decisions as to what goes on, so that there isn't a greater lag time because it has to come to a monthly meeting, and it would make it very fast.
Yeah, I think the idea is, you know, definitely we wanna put a note on the town webpage that, explaining that meeting minutes require an approval process, so just because we have a meeting tonight, you know, the meeting minutes may be ready by Friday, but they can't be posted until they're approved at next month's meeting, so that's one of the things, but then in the interim, if we post that audio recording, there's the transparency that some of the community is looking for, that they can listen to what happened here tonight if they couldn't attend.
Now, so is the audio really a stepping stone until we get the
Yeah.
video that includes the audio?
Yes, and that's what, Danny and her husband are going to share some information around the equipment that we're proposing, and as we talked about at one of our other meetings, some of the, devices that.
I think a presentation on devices, if it's outside of what your budget is, probably has to be.
It's included in our budget,
Oh, okay.
but we want, at one of the recent meetings, we asked for some input from the board on what types of devices they're comfortable with, and, as we're looking at the costs, and that's when we were asked to come back with some more details on those devices.
Before the presentation, is there someone that's going to be a second set of eyes or an evaluator of what Jennifer's putting on, so that she doesn't get caught in a position of putting something out there that reflects the town without it having been approved?
I think it would just be like a standard protocol, agenda, minutes, and the approved recordings.
So
I would look at her contract again to see just what the website portion of her contract says,
Okay.
that her job duties require. And then maybe she should have a conversation with the board. Maybe so she has an understanding as to what she should or should
Should
not be.
or should not.
What we're expecting,
Yeah.
I believe most of it though is, like you said, it's gonna be the standard things that have to go on her, they're on their house.
But there might be a message from John's garbage disposal, there might be a message from the PD that there's a road closed, there might be a message from the Lakeville Management
So we have
District
to have
that
that
there's
discussion.
be slow, no wait.
Okay.
You know, and I think that those are things that are very time sensitive, and to come back to us to officially approve it might make it
Seems
too
reasonable.
old.
Yeah, I think
That
today
kind of-
it's being done by Jean and Kim, right, making those decisions on what gets posted, they're the ones
Well,
who have been
and-
working on it.
What
But she's the
happened,
web person.
yes, Jen is the web
Yeah,
person.
right,
And what's been happening to date is Chief Jensen, interim Chief Jagielski, if they have something for the website, it's benign information such as trick or treating hour, you know, the national night out, things like that. We do get information also about the centennial celebration. So when Barb's talking about that timeliness of those things that happen, those are things that are pretty benign, that it's, for lack of a better term, it's common sense that, yeah, that's okay to put on. I think that maybe when you start getting into the Facebook page and some of those things, then you start talking about, is this okay, isn't this okay? But for the day-to-day operation of the website, it's pretty benign information that is okay to put out there with regard to reflecting the town.
In other places where I have worked, we have had social media plans that leadership has approved, and they're boilerplate things that encompass some of those standardized postings, so that it's okay, and there's a template, you put in the, you know, time-sensitive information, but there's a general understanding of, it falls within an approved category of, to allow that timely posting, but everybody's aware of what that may look like. And I think that could be looked at and seasonally approved as you look forward to some, you know, weight restrictions on the road in the spring, you know, those sorts of things that can be planned out ahead of time.
I think that's a great idea, because if Jen's on the communications committee, she might wonder who she answers to.
No, she's not on the communication.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
she's
is.
not.
No,
Yeah.
she has attended meetings on her
Right,
part.
but she's not-
Yeah.
Not appointed as
No,
Right.
anybody, the
Oh,
website updates, we
I
list
thought she was.
Kim, Jean, and Jennifer, okay? But, that wasn't, the loading of the information, the submitting of information, that might change based on what how, it may change on how the operation really works, okay? So that could be, you know, the situation, all right? So, but, back to your other point about what Jennifer's contract says, that, I mean, that's one of the reasons why she's on there, is because of that.
It specifically deals with websites.
Right.
Correct.
Right, the sheet in question.
So, she's taking off the meeting now?
Just recently she started to join the meetings, yep, so, as available. And Danny.
Hi everyone, I'm Jamie Foster.
Hi, I'm Brett Foster, her husband.
So I asked Brett, so kindly volunteered him to help us out with the communications committee. He has worked in IT for many, many years. And in looking at the ad hoc report that was put together, thank you to everybody who worked on that, who's here tonight and, you know, not in attendance too. And building forward with that, one of the next steps that we have to look at, even within that budget, is making some decisions around what we want to do moving forward. So, was this given to everybody? Okay, so we can make sure in following up, that we have a cost proposal, and so this was all built upon the ad hoc committee. Now, that was the committee report, I believe, that the board at the time saw, and it's a year and a half later. We all know that, you know, market-wise, we're in a really different position, pricing and, you know, all that fun sort of stuff. So looking at, our discussion with the board previously, one of the decisions we need to make is around, one of the things in the proposal was providing laptops or tablet devices to board members and potentially the planning commission participants. This would enable individuals to participate in virtual meetings, in the instance that we ever had to go remote again, or if, you know, Chairman, you were talking about taking meetings on the road, those sorts of things. It would enable some sort of those meetings if you weren't able to meet in person, or if it wasn't convenient to do so. In addition, it would enable board members to share presentations or documents that they may put together during the meeting if we were to project something in the room or have something on a screen, and eventually when we're live streaming, sharing that to the audience that's joining virtually as well or watching a recording. It's really about preference. In addition, I think the issuance of individual devices to the board probably speaks to some of the IT security goals and the things working towards really modernizing some of the operations here. It would give you, as you work with an IT consultant in the future, administrative control over a device. And I work in healthcare, I'm a social worker. you know, if anything were to happen, my boss or company could shut down access to that computer immediately, if it was stolen or, you know, for whatever reason. So there's a lot of other benefits that come along with that recommendation there. So we've priced out some of these things, and it really depends on how many devices you want or what type of devices, between tablets or laptops.
Step in quick. Tablets are gonna inherently be a little more costly just from the get-go, in that you're gonna need a stand, you're gonna need a keyboard, you're gonna need these things. If you plan on using them in an office type setting or in a, you know, this sort of setting, you're gonna probably wanna be typing, you're gonna wanna do that stuff. Tablets are great, but are they necessary for this situation? It really comes down to preference. The great thing about Chromebooks, it self-stands up, it's got its camera, you can type, you can use all of the functionality of the Office suites built into Google or whatever you wanna use, which is, then you're all on the same encryption, you're all under the same security. You can manage all of the computers as one group, as an administrator, meaning like you can give access to certain programs, you can limit access to other programs, and you can just make sure that everybody's on the same standard protocol across the board, which is kind of nice in a situation like this. You can do the same thing with the tablets, but like I said, you're losing some of the functionality of just having a standard laptop. Going forward onto the live streaming system, this is the machine that will essentially allow you to take the video sources, which I had budgeted for 2. You might need 3 in this room, just as I'm in here now looking at the configuration. You may be able to get away with 2. I was thinking 1 facing whoever's speaking here, and then 1 facing you guys. And then I would be using, which I wish you guys had this, I'm sorry. We'd be using a sound mixer, probably similar to the one that you have now, but it would have to run into the computer that we're using for live streaming. And we can use all the existing microphones, it would gather all of that audio, and then it would sync it with the video. And it would send it out to the live stream setup for YouTube, Facebook, wherever you want to store it, probably YouTube. Nice thing about YouTube, you can do it live. After it processes that live video, it stores it indefinitely. It's now part of your YouTube account, people can go back and look at each one of these meetings. We can also save those videos ourselves using a software called Handbrake. You can compress them to a much smaller file size. So you can upload it to either our own servers for the website, or you can just store them in case you need them.
You're gonna have to store them.
In the future, exactly, right. And I had put that here as well for an external hard drive that's like 3 terabytes, that's more than we would probably need for a while. But the live streaming system, you're essentially looking at something that's got a really strong, good processor, 16 gigabytes more of system memory, and just a nice video card. That's really all you need. You're basically looking at a gaming PC because that's what has the specs necessary to do live streaming. But what I see, okay, I'll open it. I've got a lot of years in this, but the last 10 years, I've been pretty much focused on helping small businesses in the area. My entire thing is like, can we do this for the cheapest cost? Can we do it with open source, meaning free software that's, the source code is available. So anybody that wants to view it, they can see that it's secure, they can see that it's built, around personal use. Open source is just a great way, especially for town boards and stuff, where you don't have to worry about a yearly subscription fee, any of that stuff. It's really easy to use. OBS, in this case, it's called Open Broadcast Software, that would drive your entire broadcast. You'd be able to put up images as you want, like you have East Troy thing in the corner with all of your video feeds, all of your audio going through the same thing pushed up. I'm willing to help donate time to this. I'm willing to help set it up. I mean, I can, set an hour that I'm willing to donate. I can go for the discounted rate after that. I love this town, I love this community. I want to see you guys, up to where you need to be, because it's a lot about transparency and everything else. And I'd love to just be like, okay, we're good. Everything's covered. I'm down to help with that. So that's where this is at. This proposal that I put forward is as cost effective, I think, as I could do. I went with refurbished PCs for the most part, as far as what would be driving the streaming service with a 2-3 year warranty. I've had really great luck with clients using these machines from Newegg that are recertified. They basically, cut the cost down immensely, but then you have that guarantee if anything goes wrong, in a couple of years you're covered, which is great.
So in addition, in the proposal, there are things like a monitor that would accompany that PC, web cameras, the sound mixer, the cost for a projector that would work in highlight. We wanted to really look at the lumen. That was something that came up in our committee meeting. If we were to present on the projector screen here, one of the things that we've talked about is with the layout of this room and the use of screens on the wall, how can we have something that is readable for people in the audience? Looking at accessibility in all of this as well. If I'm sitting in the back of the room and that, you know, how do we make sure that within this environment, we're designing something that is usable for the people who might be turning on the computers, turning on the streaming, and can be seen by the people who are in the room and then virtual, who are joining that layer, watching the next day.
With a projector, if you guys did go the route of the laptops, you can stream from your laptop individually, so if somebody has a PowerPoint or something while you're sitting there, you can send it to the projector and have it sent up there. You can also send from the live streaming computer, you can tie it to somebody who's at the podium if they have a PowerPoint, and they, you know, if you wanna have a clicker that ties to it, so they can go through it and it'll display the screen. All that's doable within this proposal as well, so.
Equipment availability, software, hardware, is there any issues?
The only issue I came into was the amount on some of these Chromebooks, so once we get you this report, you'll see that there's 2 different Chromebooks listed, and that has entirely to do with the supply chain. I can get 10 from one vendor of one, but I can't get 10 of that same one from another vendor. So I went with a similar Chromebook, essentially, just because of the vendor supply stuff.
Do you have the amount?
No.
Is it something that we have to put out for bid?
No, it's within our budget,
Within the budget,
Yeah.
that's true.
which was well, we have a total of 8,000 and 5,000, so the communications committee has a budget of 13.
And it's below 25,000, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Within
I didn't know.
13, yep.
That's when we have to bid it regardless of the.
Yeah, so we operate within the budget, I think we came in under. You know, so, again, we're looking at just, maybe a dimmer switch, more than a light switch of how do we continue to take steps forward, to create a system here that's sustainable, to move into live streaming.
Yeah, I mean, that's, the report basically saying that you're gonna have something to look at on the website by July 1st, the first thing. The second thing is live streaming, so we don't have to have John here. How long have you been doing this?
19, 20 months.
19, 20 months?
No, 19 or 20 months, somewhere right in there.
But that's the next thing for sure, how it gets tied in or integrated with any other devices. To me, that's the main thing is getting that part up and
And I
running.
think once we get an IT person who can do that for
Or
us,
help.
then we can figure out what equipment is needed.
Yeah,
We
but-
need to make sure that, like our routing, our internet, our infrastructure is ready to do live streaming before we go and purchase any live
I
streaming.
agree, but you have to, but what I'm getting at is the live streaming deal is really independent.
Yeah.
And we can add on what's proposed here or even more.
That's what I'm understanding, is that this is kind of, if we start and get this basis going, it's definitely things that we can add on to, and that's what you're making
Yeah,
the
I mean,
system
it's
for,
even
so
with
we
this,
can advance.
as I walked into this room, I'm like, okay, I didn't count running a few different cables of length. I have some of the cables on here with power, I see there's power here, where are we gonna put the box, how long can we let the cables? Just little things like that, that would still be under probably $100, $150 on top of this. That's just as I walked into this room and I looked around. But yeah, I mean, I think this is fairly comprehensive as far as the internet in here. If we put another access point, I'm sure we'd be more than good. It's just, I'm down to help, that's what I'm trying to say, that's all.
Right, this
Yeah.
is initial
Yeah.
estimates.
Can you restructure the room